We are live.
Let's roll, buddy. It's go time. Been waiting for this one.
I know.
Oh yeah,
It's like
tweet.
the pod that we said we already know what we're gonna say, but we will. Do
I know. It's just like I've been, really.
Yes.
There was like one pod that we knew we were absolutely doing this offseason. And it's like, oh, it's here. Unexpected. They lulled us into it. Anyway, are you ready to roll?
Yep.
Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino app. And Elliot and I were just talking before we started recording, just saying like there was one podcast all off season that we knew we were going to do at some point. Like eventually the Hertz emergency pod was going to happen. It's here. We made it. And honestly, they lulled me into complacency. I did not expect it at all right now. So there you go. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I was making my breakfast when I got a text saying Jalen Hurts in all caps, so I immediately knew something had gone down. But look, I mean,
I heard from you, by the way. You're the one who broke the news to me. Yeah,
I was gonna say I called you, and for a second when you picked up, I couldn't tell if you knew. But no, I mean, look, I think that the obvious takeaway. Well, there's a bunch we'll get into. Today's an exciting pod. Like, I think that today, if you are a Jalen Hurts fan, which I'm guessing every single person in this pod is, he's earned this deal. And, sometimes when we talk about Jalen, I hesitate to bring up Carson Wentz too much just because it can get a little tired comparing them. But on a day when he signed a franchise quarterback deal, I think for me, what really stands out is the major differences between these two moments, right? One, let's talk about earning the deal. Jalen Hurts earned this deal. From the second Carson Wentz was drafted, he was going to get that contract. And a lot of quarterbacks like that are drafted in the top 5. They plan for this moment, right? Jalen wasn't supposed to be here. The Eagles weren't planning on paying Jalen this. He wasn't supposed to be here when Alabama benched him in the title game. He wasn't supposed to be here when he went on from Oklahoma, when he fell to the second round, when they forced him to be a Wildcat quarterback, when they tried to trade for Russell Wilson, he wasn't supposed to be here. He is here with this money as the most committed franchise quarterback in Eagles history because he earned it. He flat out earned it. Sometimes in sports, look, athletes earn it by getting to the pro level. They work hard to get there, but people get paid all the time when they don't really deserve it, right? Carson was coming off a torn ACL and a broken back. I remember it was probably one of the first pods we did together back when they signed him. And I didn't like the deal because I didn't think it was a smart investment. Anytime you give somebody $50 million a year, there's risk. There's absolute risk. And we'll get into that. But when you have to bet on somebody that is worth giving the money to, it's Jalen. And he's earned it. I don't think he'll get complacent. And yeah, I mean, I think that we'll get into the specifics of the contract. But to start this pod with anything else other than saying congratulations to Jalen, he's earned it. And it was supposed to happen, but he made it happen. It's incredibly impressive.
Yeah. Look, I think there are a lot of reasons to be happy about this and obviously happy for Jalen. I mean, setting his family up for generations now. And look, this isn't going to be the only big contract if I had to bet on for Jalen Hurts because of what you just talked about. And that's, my very first thought when you broke the news to me and then I looked it up and I saw the money and all that was just like, there's no one else I'd rather bet on. If I'm going to give a monstrous contract to anyone in sports, in any of the 4 sports in this city, in this country, wherever, like there's no human being I feel more comfortable making that commitment to than Jalen Hurts. I don't believe it's going to change him. I don't believe that he's going to work any less hard. I don't believe that he's going to be any less competitive, any less committed to winning. And he's the best we've ever seen at all that stuff, or certainly the best at his age we've ever seen at all that stuff. So dude, this is the guy you bet on. Like if you're going to have to pay someone, and oh, by the way, I'm going to get into specifics. This is what you have to pay quarterbacks. It is what it is. Okay. Like this is what it costs to do business. If you have one of the best quarterbacks in the sport, where you get into trouble is when you give more guaranteed money to a guy like Kyler Murray, who is absolutely not one of the best quarterbacks in the sport.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts is. Jalen Hurts almost won the freaking Super Bowl this year, and he was brilliant in that game other than one play. Like he was absolutely brilliant. And again, like people follow this guy. He has a like just that charisma, that leadership, all the things you want in that position. And to Elliott, something Elliott's talked about a lot, and with the Carson deal and with the expectation of Jalen won the fact that this is the face of your franchise now. Like, that's the guy. When people think about the Philadelphia Eagles, they think about Jalen Hurts now and moving forward through the life of this contract. And I'm super freaking happy that guy's the face of my team.
So I thought at the Super Bowl, and we talked about this in the pods leading up to the Super Bowl, it just stood out that he's somebody you want wearing an Eagles hat. Like, he's somebody you want at the podium with the whole league watching, talking about what he's been through, about, dropping just like fire quotes about being better. So I think what you just said is really important. Like, as a person, Jalen is who you want as a franchise quarterback. You can trust him. He's not going to say anything at the podium that's going to create shockwaves and make bad decisions, those type of things. He's someone that they can send to any event in the city, and he can tell a story about overcoming and being better. And that matters. Like, the Eagles are a football team, but the Eagles are also a franchise, and they're a business. And Jalen now is somebody that they can market at the highest levels with complete confidence. So I think that's important. The other thing that really stood out to me about this contract was the no trade clause. I was surprised to see it. It's the first time in Eagles franchise history that anybody's ever gotten it. To me, it says a couple of things. A, the Eagles gave that up. I think, to get, I don't want to say a discount by any stretch because Jalen got paid, but they didn't have to do fully guaranteed. He didn't get like $55 million a year. He got 51. His guaranteed money was not over $200 million, which there was some speculation it could be as high as that, right? I think it came in at about $180 million. So they gave Jalen the no trade clause. Now, why do I think that was important to Jalen? Because if you look at Jalen's career, he has never had control, right? At Alabama, he got benched. He obviously left Oklahoma because he had to graduate. But in the draft, he fell to the second round. When he was drafted by the Eagles, he was forced to be that dumb Wildcat backup quarterback thing, right? Even after taking him to the playoffs in 2021, they tried to move on from him. Jalen doesn't have complete control now. I'm sure this is not a no cut clause. Like, they could still cut Jalen, and clearly because of this contract, that's almost definitely not happening for at least 3 years, you would think, right? But if, let's say, the Eagles decide they want to move on, or for whatever reason, right?
Like they did with the last quarterback they signed a big contract.
Correct, right. So now Jalen has control. And I can see from Jalen's perspective, while giving up some of the money is worth it. I mean, we talked not a ton on this pod, but obviously there's been a lot of discussion about should Jalen take less money to help him win. And when we talked about it, the kind of discussion was, look, he's giving something up to make his life better. If he took less money, like whatever, right? I think what maybe we missed was what Jalen wanted was to feel security and to feel like he didn't have to worry about the rug getting pulled out from under him like he has in past situations. And that's what the no trade clause gives him. So not only does he get to feel that, he gets that level of commitment from the Eagles of saying, like, look, man, we are all in on you. Financially, you're seeing this. We're not like, it's not, 6 years, $300 million fully guaranteed. It's not a contract that's going to reset sports. It's not any of those things. It's a fair, expensive franchise level quarterback contract. And I think the no trade clause, to me, is the icing on the cake of this is what we're doing to make it seem fully committed, as opposed to some, absurd financial thing.
Yeah, well, you don't really see no trade clauses in football. It's a
never in
baseball
franchise
thing.
history.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of franchises haven't done it because I don't remember seeing it. I mean, maybe others have, but it's pretty rare.
Yeah,
exactly. You never see them. It's a baseball thing, and that was a big deal when Harper came here. It was the 13 years, no trade clause. He's like, I want to be here. I'm not going anywhere. And I do think that is something I agree mattered to Jalen. Obviously, they thought to put it in there. That came from somewhere. And it's obviously for Jalen's benefit, and he has the control there. So that's a win for him. But it's very funny as you're talking, as I'm thinking about the contract, and I go back to you, and I think you did it like 2 or 3 times, the preview of this pod. It's exactly it. Look, he got a ton of money. His agent is able to say, look, it's the most average per year, even though we know that it's, not that, that it's 35 per year if you do the guaranteed money as opposed to 51, whatever. But the Eagles paid him $10 million guaranteed, less than Kyler Murray got. also the Eagles got to get this done before these next big guys come up. Obviously, Lamar's out there, but the Herbert and Burrow contracts, like those guys will get more money than Jalen Hurts. It's just the way this works right now in the NFL. And at a certain point, it's going to plateau. And we've seen a outlier in the Deshaun Watson contract where teams were like, listen, we're just not doing that. Like, screw that. Like, that's not.
And the Eagles didn't have to do it. The Eagles
and that's a big deal. Like, ultimately, Jalen Hurts got generational wealth. He got something where him and his agent can put it out there, and rightfully so, and say, I am the richest man in the NFL right now in terms of the wealth of my
total contract. Value of the contract.
And that's freaking awesome.
Well, just real quick, I don't know why people keep saying that, because didn't Mahomes get $400 million?
Yeah, but not. I think it's because of the guaranteed thing.
Yeah, it's just weird to me. People keep saying
whatever it is. Regardless, the point is, like, he's able to they are able to, and rightfully so, promote the contract in that way, and that's factual and it's true. But at the same time, the Eagles did get him for less guaranteed money than Kyler Murray, which is and obviously not going fully guaranteed when, the Lamar stuff, and there's all this like fervor and push for that. And we even had Sheil Kapati on the show today, and he was talking about, what if Herbert and Burrow and Hurts just got together and we're like, we're not signing for non-guaranteed contract. Like that, you never know, right? You never know what's going to happen. And the fact the Eagles were able to get this done early, like, it's exactly what we talked about. I think that a lot of people saw this number, and I saw people, whoa, a lot of money. It's like, no shit. All right. No earmuffs. 1, 2, 3. No shit. We all knew he was going to be in some way the highest paid quarterback in the NFL in one of these metrics. Like, that's the way for the top guys, these contracts work now. And that's going to happen for Burrow, and that's going to happen for Herbert. And the Eagles got a big win by getting it done now.
So what's crazy is, when I first saw the money, it is, look, it's obviously a ton of money. Like, obviously they did not get him on the cheap. They did not get him anything like that. But it wasn't the type of money, like, it was just kind of exactly what you expect. It's like when you go to buy something, or the check comes and you're like, I think it's going to be this. And it's like, yeah, that's what it was. Like, it's not like I saw the tweet or whatever, and it was, oh my God, he got 400 over 10 like Mahomes, or, oh my God, he got 200 over 3. Like, it was just a fair, good contract. Like, I really don't think it's financially, it resets the market or anything like that. I think the no trade clause is what does it. But also, by the way, quick shout out to all the real ones. There's so many people in the chat. We have 90 people.
So what? Oh my goodness.
Right now.
I can't. Usually I'm logged in too, but I'm not logged in right now. So I can't see the chat at all. It is. I love all of you.
And they're all talking. It's very fun. It
makes my soul happy. Yeah. And they should be excited. Like you said at the top, this is an exciting day for the Eagles, for Jalen, and also for Eagles fans, because we get to have this dude in our life for the next 5 years at least.
So let's talk about the money a little bit. And then I do have one thought from the Eagles perspective to give on this. Sure. So here, just like some
then I do want to get your thoughts on how you expect this to be structured.
Yep. So these are just some notes I took looking at the numbers. So obviously 5 years, $255 million. It's the third highest total value. Mahomes and Allen has more. Like, Watson's deal is 100% guaranteed, but it's only 230. So he comes in ahead of that. It's essentially
it's only 230 guaranteed.
Right, exactly. It's essentially a 6-year deal because it's an extension. So he signed through 2028.
They also did that BS thing where they gave him like $1 million in the first year or whatever.
I know.
He wasn't play. Oh God,
right.
So that was like dark.
Watson.
The whole thing's dark, but that was just ugh.
So I'll be interested to see if there's dummy years on it. They can announce it as a 1 year. I mean, like for Kelsey, they announce 1 year deals, but they're really 4 year deals with 3 dummy years. So it'll be interesting to see if this is actually like an 8 year deal contractually to spread things out. I would think they would. It would be crazy not to put dummy years on this contract when you do it for the littlest contract. So I would expect that. 179 million guaranteed. Again, little surprised it wasn't over 2. Like, that probably would have been the shock value, like the sticker shock value. So in that way, I think the Eagles maybe won that part a little bit. 51 million.
Again, it was less than Kyler. I mean, there's no other way than to say that the Eagles won that just on that fact. It was 10 million guaranteed less than Kyler. Like, that's a win for the Eagles.
And he's like the anti-Kyler in every single
I know.
So 51 million a year, which is always just so funny to me. It's like, we'll give you 255 instead of 250 so that you are the highest paid. And
I know.
At this point, I'll say this. Like, Jeffrey Lurie deserves some credit too. Like how he constructs it. Jalen earns it. But at the end of the day, when the Eagles pay somebody, they do not cheap out. They gave AJ $100 million. Every quarterback they've signed when they've done it has been one of the highest paid in the league. Like, I mean, Jeffrey Lurie, there are some owners. I mean, look what's happening in Washington.
Yeah.
There are some owners that very, very much could have just been like, no, I'm not cutting that check for you.
Well, the Cincinnati, that's going to be an interesting one. Like, they're notoriously cheap.
100%.
I mean, yeah. No, and what is it? 110 at signing for Hurts, right? Like, so does he just get a check for 110 at signing? Like,
no. So he gets, according to the report, he gets a $24 million signing bonus. So that's like, that's what you get. My understanding is, at least, that's what you get like right away. So he'll, be a nice little AJ Brown's birthday's coming up. AJ Brown, it's a good time to have a birthday. So the $24 million signing bonus, here would be my note on that. The signing bonus is the thing that you can stretch and prorate, right? So the signing bonus, if it's a 5-year deal, let's just take it at face value. Well, I guess it's 6 years, but the $24 million is what gets stretched out in terms of the cap hit. His cap hit is like 4.6 or 5 million or something this year. I mean, I would think based off and again, Howie is like, Howie and Jake Rosenberg like construct these things where every time I see a contract, there's some new wrinkle to it. So who knows? But I would think that signing bonus means Hurts cap hit is definitely going up this year. There was also a note from Ian Rappaport that Hurts got a raise this year. And I'm just thinking that means base salary, the way he phrased it. So his cap hit of around 5 million could honestly go up to like 15. It wouldn't surprise me if it doubled or tripled. And from a cap perspective, that's about half the Eagles cap. So that's one thing to consider.
And they have to sign the draft picks and stuff.
They have to sign the draft picks and stuff. Yeah. So again, that's kind of like speculation on my part, but just based off what I'm reading and how I think they'll do it, I think his cap hit is going to go up. Like when they signed Carson, his cap hit didn't really go up. They gave him a small signing bonus, but this time because Hurts' salary was so low, I do think it will go up. So $24 million signing bonus, not a massive signing bonus, but certainly a nice chunk of change. $64 million through the first 2 years. So this year and next year. What's funny about that is I saw a few people tweet this. Daniel Jones got something like 85 million over the first 2 years. So the Eagles are going to pay Jalen Hurts less cash over the next 2 years, and the Giants are going to pay Daniel Jones.
Wow.
So that can be, the tweet everyone tweets every time Daniel Jones is terrible. We talked about the no trade clause. Obviously, it's massive. Like he can decide where he goes. If this, like when Carson forced his way to the Colts, so he in some ways like had a no trade clause because he can decide where he wants to go. But the no trade clause really does give him a lot of power. Like if they want to just move on from him on the low, like if he has a bad year or whatever, they just can't do it. So it is a massive deal. I'm trying to see some other notes. 110 million fully guaranteed is the third most ever in the NFL. 126 million guaranteed before year 2 is the second most. So yeah, I mean, he got a ton of money, but to kind of recap everything with the contract, like it really isn't the massive, like, huge sticker value that you thought. I do think the Eagles, and I'll ask you this actually. So I was on with Hugh Douglas and Joe Giglio before we came on, and they asked me who won the negotiation. And I think I said Jalen just because he got the no trade clause and he did get a ton of money, but I'm curious where you fall on it.
So my gut was that the Eagles did, but
I'm leaning that way too now after talking about it.
Yeah. I, for all the reasons we talked about and the Kyler sticker, the guarantee money being less than Kyler. It just feels like, to your point, like I was expecting a Buffo contract, and not that this isn't Buffo. It is, it's crazy to say it that way, but to your point, something where when the Deshaun, and I didn't expect fully guaranteed money, but when the Deshaun Watson contract came out, everyone was like, whoa, earmuffs went like, holy shit.
And
I expected, and it's not, it's just it's the obvious next step in these types of contracts, and even still in a way where it was a little bit more team friendly than maybe what Arizona did with the Kyler contract. Right? For a guy, again, you are so happy to bet on and believe in and all that. It's just, so I think the Eagles did, but I honestly don't think, I think this is one of those like 51-49. And honestly, like this is such a, thing to say, but I think everyone's a winner in this.
Oh, there
I really do. I really do.
James Helter, yeah.
It's what we predicted.
You're right.
Jalen got a bunch of money. Wow, it's a lot of money, but you know what? Pretty good contract for the Eagles,
100%.
considering the situation before the other guy. Like, And I do think, I know we mentioned it, I know a lot of people are talking about it, but it's worth talking about. Like, getting it done before these other three quarterbacks was, I think, important, because ultimately, if any one of these factors that they wanted to be the top of or whatever gets changed, then all of a sudden you're dealing with that all of a sudden,
Yeah.
So,
and I also think like it does benefit the Eagles to get it done quickly. We had some brief discussions about who had more leverage. I think the Eagles did have more leverage, and you can kind of see that a little bit. Like the no trade clause matters; it's important. But I'm sure from the Eagles' perspective,
they're like, we're not planning on trading you anyway.
They're like, look,
it's gone really bad if we're going to trade you.
We're so screwed. So it is what it is. But I think the Eagles probably walk away from this saying, look, I'm happy we got it done now. So here would be my two, and not even negative thoughts, but just two not like completely celebratory thoughts. Mm-hmm. One is, I don't think the Eagles are probably like super happy at the NovaCare, not because they don't trust in Jalen, not any of those things.
It's just never harder to build a team.
Yeah, it's never a good thing, to spend this much money. Like they can be happy they have their guy and they can promote him everywhere, and those are great things, and all that stuff is true. But at the end of the day, like their quarterback has gone from being on a second round salary to one of the highest paid in the entire NFL, regardless of position and in the history of the sport. Like there's no real celebratory thing about that. Like I was talking, this is random, but I think it ties in. I was out to dinner with two of my friends last night, and they had to get $10,000 of work done to their house. And it was like, well, it'll be, we're really happy it's going to be over because now it'll be better. But you're like, I don't know, man. You still have to spend $10,000. like we can talk ourselves into it, but at the end of the day, it's never fun to write that check. Yeah. So I think that's a little bit of what it is for the Eagles. Like I get why fans are excited. It's not their money. I get why obviously Jalen should be excited. But I think from a team perspective, I mean, things change today. Like things change. Like the expectations change on what they need to accomplish every year. Building is going to be harder. It's just all those things. So ultimately, I think it's something the Eagles should be happy they have Jalen. And if he plays at the level he's capable of, he will be worth every dollar of this contract. And the Eagles the Eagles will go into every year with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah. In some ways, you can't set a price on that, right? Yeah, but it does suck to have to pay him. It does suck to pay any quarterback this type of money.
Yeah, that's just what this is. You're exactly right, and that's just the basic, economics of the situation and of the importance of the position, all that, and it's a risk reward thing where like the Eagles, to your point, obviously would rather pay their quarterback less to build around him better and makes Howie's job easier, makes everything easier. Of course they would, but also they risk reward said, you know what, paying Jalen and figuring it out around that is worth it. Because he is who he is and because of how great he is and all that type of stuff. But yeah, of course, obviously it makes it look, it's really hard to, Mahomes, I think just became the first quarterback with over 15% of the salary or something. It may be Brady in Tampa, but like, we have it mostly, the big money quarterbacks have not won the Super Bowl. So
yeah.
I think the paradigm's shifting though with quarterbacks making so much now and all that stuff.
Right. And look,
it just is what it is. You have to pay quarterbacks.
He is just so set up to win. Like AJ's under contract. They'll still be able to pay Devontae. They have a great offensive line. If they do the smart thing and take Bijan, he'll have somebody else. So, they have defensive pass rushers. They have good secondary players. So he is set up. Like when you talk about, year 4 of this contract is so far away, they'll be able to plan. But over the next 2 years, when their window is really open, they are already really set up. Like, his salary doesn't really impact them the next 2 years on a larger scale. Of course, there's margins, those type of things. But just in terms of like being able to win despite having a quarterback under a big contract, they are there. Like they are set up to do that.
And also, look, this gives them, room to restructure down the road or do a new contract at a certain point or whatever. I mean, like if they're paying Jalen so young, and it gives Hurts the opportunity to make more money, obviously, but I think there'll be some maneuverability with it, especially look, everyone was, take less money, this and that, all that stuff. This was his first contract. This was, for him, his agent, all that, like there was no way that it was going to be below a certain level. But down the road, if he wants to win, that's when you could start to do the Brady thing. Once you got 200 million in the break and then stuff, then it's like, okay, you know what? I want to win. I want, this receiver instead of that receiver. I'll take a few million less, whatever, So I think there's the future is bright.
if Jalen continues at the level he is, they're going to redo this contract so many times. It's
exactly.
every single year it'll get redone. They'll convert his base salary to signing bonus. They'll stretch it further, all those things. So my second, maybe just like not completely celebratory thought is, things change for Jalen today, like financially, of course, but also we remember how it was with Carson. Once Carson got that deal, and there were other components of that, but then it's all on him, right? Like once you get that money, once you get that type of responsibility, like when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, and I know Mahomes has won 2 Super Bowls, so it's different. But when we look at the Chiefs, we pretty much just go, they're as good as Mahomes, right? Like Josh Allen, all these guys, when you get paid, that's it. Like when we start post-game pods now, of course, I'm sure there'll be games, now that Gannon's gone where the defense isn't as good. But but there will be games, where the majority of games will start and go, all right, how did Jalen play? Like, did they get the $50 million worth of Jalen? And the good news is, again, unlike Carson, when they signed Carson, Jalen has a track record of doing everything they need from him to keep winning. He can take care of the ball. He's won in the playoffs. He was outstanding in the Super Bowl other than the one mistake. Like Jalen has shown he can be who they need him to be. I'm just saying now it's different. Like now it's not this feel good come up story. Look at how great this is. He's exploding on the scene. Everyone wants to root for Jalen. Those will remain because he's a good guy and he's easy to root for. But it also changes from the perspective of the bullseye, like the win-loss pressure, all that is firmly on his back now. Like if they don't have a great year next year and he throws more interceptions and all those things, now he's not the lovable come up story. He's the highest paid player in the league. You have to play like that. I mean, they're banking off him off of 1 year, and I think it's a smart bet, but they are banking off him off of 1 year. Repeating what he did last year was going to be extremely hard, even if he didn't get a new deal. Now with that new deal, there's a lot more pressure. So this is a good day for the franchise and locking up a quarterback they believe in. But now, like, he's earned this deal, but now he has to go out, and the team does too, but he does, and be worth it. And that's just, it's a different level of expectation than he was under last year.
Yeah, I that is absolutely true. I just think he's built for it, and in terms of, and also I just don't think it's going to affect him in the same. Look, he always seemed to take everything on himself anyway. I mean, he's not out there blaming his offensive line or blaming wide receivers or whatever. He's out there being like, I have to be better. We have to be better. This wasn't good enough. Like he's already so accountable and so. Locked in like that. So you're absolutely right. And obviously however he plays will dictate it. But I think, look, they are betting off him off one great year, but they're also betting on the person and the journey and the path and what created that great year. The work and the dedication that went into making that year is what you're really betting on because, you believe that he's going to continue to grow and get better. So
this might be a good thing to wrap it up on, but there's a really good question in the comments. We can talk about it and answer it now, or maybe honestly, this could be a radio topic, but this is from David Neal. Great question. Is it possible to live up to this contract if he doesn't win the Super Bowl? Like, does he have to win the Super Bowl to be worth this deal?
It's a great question.
It is, right?
It's a phenomenal question. I mean, look, yes and no.
My gut is no.
Like, no, in actuality, no. I mean, I think you can only pay a guy and expect production from him. And, look, if he wins big games and just can't get the, Super Bowl done and is a great player and gives you MVP-ish type seasons, like he's worth the money. But I get his point in that, especially after the way we lost that Super Bowl, it will feel disappointing if Jalen doesn't get one here, no matter how great he is, and we'll always appreciate it. It doesn't make him less than, so to speak, but I get David's point. It's like, I agree with you. I don't think it does, but I think he can absolutely live up to the contract, so to speak, without winning a Super Bowl. But I get it. And I will definitely be disappointed if he doesn't win one.
I was younger, obviously, clearly by definition, when McNabb was the quarterback. So I don't really remember like how the contract impacted how he was viewed, but McNabb was worth the deal. Like they went to the championship game almost every single year with him. Those 4 straight years, they went again when he was went against Arizona. So I think that Jalen winning a Super Bowl is probably more about legacy. If they can continually be top 2 seeds in the NFC, if they can win home playoff games, if they can get to Super Bowls, I don't think anyone will say he's not worth the money. I think Jalen being worth the money is about continually winning and winning in the playoffs. And then frankly, like you let the chips fall where they may. And at that point, you're talking about his Hall of Fame case or his resume more than you're talking about his financial worth. So if he's making playoffs and winning and getting them, 12 plus wins every year, that's where I think he earns the money. And that's where I think he's worth it. The next step of that to me is more about his legacy and how we remember him.
Love it.
All right.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good. It's a good question.
I tried. It is
a lot more layers to it, obviously.
Yeah, it's a super interesting one.
All right. This was great. Jalen.
It is so funny. Like, it's such a massive day in the franchise and all those things. But like we said, it was pretty much exactly what we expected. Like,
again,
we wanted. Very happy for him. There isn't some craziness. So, but when you're a well-run franchise and you have the right people doing negotiations, this is what happens.
It's literally, again, we expected to do this podcast and it all played out exactly as we expected, just a little later than we initially expected. And then a little earlier than we expected after that.
Right. Here's my final thought, Jalen edition. Don't have him ring the bell in the first round against the Sixers. Against the Nets. Obviously, he should be a bell ringer. This is a moment. Do it like against Boston. Don't have him ring the bell against Brooklyn. I would save it for a bigger series.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes without saying. 100%.
Yeah. Well, people are saying you should bring it tonight, which I can kind of see, but
I get it. The contract night. I get it.
Right. I would hold it.
Yeah. I would hold it too. I think you're right about that. All right. You got any other final thoughts? I feel like it's just Jalen's day.
No, yeah. I mean, this is, what did Andy Reid say? It's Sean Andrews' day.
Yeah, it's Jay. Yeah, well done.
Stacey
Andrews. It's Stacey Andrews' day.
Yes.
So, today is Jalen Hurts' day, and again, just to what we said, it is an exciting day for the Philadelphia Eagles and for Philadelphia Eagles fans. Like, we talk so much as fans about, as football fans about finding the guy, and we thought we had him with Wentz, And look, Jalen has to prove it, to Elliot's point, but I think we got the guy. And that's pretty awesome.
It'll be fun to see the exact breakdown of the deal, and we'll talk about it more.
Yeah, we'll dive into that.
Should be happy they got their guy.
We got the guy. We got our guy. He's our baby.
There you go.
All right. We will be back on Wednesday, Thursday, Bet Parks Pod, and then Saturday, actually doing a radio show
together.
What a wild thought. What a beautiful thought. It's going to be awesome. All right. Until then, he's Adam James.
I just realized I have the power to hit end broadcast.
So. You do.
He's Elliot. I'm James. Here we go.